Hey everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today I have Dre, call sign, All Day Baldwin, and we're going to talk about how you work on your game, but from a pro athlete mindset. And what you'll see is we're tapping deep into the mindset comes first, then there's the strategy. Then you got to be able to have systems in place so it's repeatable, and don't forget the accountability piece. Okay, Dre and I go deep many different ways. Join Gucci and All Day. Ready? Hit it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today I have Dre All Day Baldwin with me in the house, basketball player, but more important, Dre, what you're doing with people, what you're doing with entrepreneurs, what you're doing with leaders, man, you're changing lives. And I just want to say thank you for making a difference in people's lives. So glad to be here. Over to you.
Well, I'm excited to be here too. Should I call you John or call you Gucci? Which one do you go by?
I like Gucci, man. Anyone, once you get to know me, which we're going to say you get to know me, it's Gucci.
Okay, so Gucci, I am excited to be here. I appreciate you having me on your platform, so I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Hey Dre, me too. And we got some cool backgrounds. I want to get a little bit in your background first. Then I want to dive right into what you do with people and how you make a difference in their lives. But you grew up in Philly, right?
That's right, born and raised. Not in West Philadelphia, but born and raised.
Did you ever go to the Army-Navy game? You remember when the Army-Navy game was played?
Yeah, of course. I never went to the game, but I do remember every year they would have it in Philly at the at Veterans Stadium. That was the old stadium before they built the new one. Yeah,
the Vet. Well, I'm going to label myself here real quick. So you say the old stadium, the Vet. There was JFK Stadium before the Vet. Do you remember that at all?
I didn't know that. No.
See, you're too young. No. You're too young.
No.
So I played ball at Navy in my freshman year. We played in the JFK Stadium, which was like a piece of history, man. But you talk about an old stadium. And I remember I wasn't playing that year. I was a freshman. I was redshirted. So I was walking. I marched on the field, and I just thought about the history. You know, Philly's got a great history, Army, Navy history. And then we moved into the Vet. And of course, now it's what's the name of this new stadium?
Lincoln Financial Field is the new place. Now, was JFK Stadium the same building as the Vet? They just renamed it, or was it a different building?
It was a different building. I mean,
it was a different building.
It was old, man. It's old school. Looks like the Coliseum, you know, anyhow, back in the day. But Dre, man, tell me about your background and what are you doing today?
Sure. So I give you the 2 to 3 minute version. I come from the city of Philadelphia, as you said. Was always into sports growing up. Played a little bit of football, but never seriously. Never really got all the equipment, so I never really played football. Then played baseball for a while. Wasn't really that good at it. Maybe mediocre at best. Finally stumbled into basketball around age 14, which is pretty late for someone who wants to go somewhere in a sport, let alone like college, let alone pros. But that was a situation. Only played 1 year high school ball. Varsity high school ball, sat the bench that 1 year, scored 2 points per game. So I always tell people, you know, if I was playing soccer or hockey, 2 points per game gets you in the Hall of Fame. But in basketball, 2 points is not much. So getting out of high school, I still wanted to keep playing basketball because I felt like I was getting better because I started so late. I still had a learning curve there, but nobody was checking for me to come play. It's not like any college coaches were beating down my door. So I went to college, but I was a walk-on. So for those who don't know the sports lingo, that just means nobody invited you, nobody asked for you, nobody's expecting you. You just literally walked in the gym and you try to earn your way onto the team.
Two of us, man. That happened to me at Colorado in football, but keep going. Okay. So you walk on. What happened?
I walk on. I made the team. So nice. I'm playing only but this is at the Division III level. So this is a level that this is kind of the third tier of sports. So it's not like the pro scouts don't come looking for players out of the D3 level. So even though I played, you know, had a college career, I didn't set the world on fire even at that level. And even if I had teammates who did, nobody was coming and checking for any of us because we're only playing Division III. You know, we're playing against guys who are going to go be, you know, insurance salespeople after school. So it's not like we're playing against future pros. So after college, my first year, I went and got a couple of quote unquote regular jobs. I worked at Bally Total Fitness selling gym memberships.
Oh, you did?
And you remember Bally? Yeah. I worked at Foot Locker. And Bally is out of business now, but not because of me. I sold a lot of memberships at Bally. I was one of the top salespeople. I was the number one salesperson at my location the summer of 2005. Just to give everybody a timeline here. So I graduated to school in 2004, summer of 2005. I went to this event called an exposure camp. You know what they are?
No. Fill me in, man.
Exposure camp's like you know what a job fair is?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so exposure camp is like a job fair for athletes, but instead of in a traditional job fair, you put on a suit, you bring your resumes, and you go shake hands, smile at people, and try to talk your way into a job interview. At an exposure camp, on the other hand, you bring your sneakers and your shorts and you actually try to play your way into a job opportunity. So this is, at this kind of event, this is a destination event for both the players and the decision makers. So this is in Orlando, Florida. I'm from Philly, so I'm in Philly. Orlando, Florida, you pay money to go to this event as well. This is not free. So you pay money. I paid my last $250 in cash because at this time I did not have a bank account or a credit card. So I actually called the event hosts and asked them, hey, can I pay in cash at the door? And they said, yeah, we'll let you pay in cash at the door. Now, they would have taken anybody's money at this time, but I didn't know that at the time. But I was thankful they let me. And me and a couple of my college teammates who also had professional ambitions but no opportunities, we rented a car in Philly. We drove from Philly to Orlando. That was about a 15 to 17-hour drive. For those who don't know the geography, hopped out of the car at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. We left on Friday afternoon, hopped out the car at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. The camp started at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. So I like to tell people I can get away with that at age 23. Couldn't do it now, but did it then. Jumped out the car, 2-day event, and basically played my way into playing pro ball. So I did pretty well at that event. It was only 2 days. We played 4 games, 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. Did good. Got a good scouting report, which is basically a independent third party saying, hey, this guy is good. He can play, which is more credible than me saying.
Yeah. Are you a guard? You point guard? What were you?
I was a guard. I was kind of like point guard, shooting guard, small forward. At the pro level, I could kind of play all three. I'm about 6'4". You're
6'4"?
Yeah.
Dang, man. I'm only like 5'8". And but as I'm looking at you, I'm going 6'4". Okay, I got you. Keep going. Yep.
Yeah, so I played pretty well there. So I had this third-party scouting report, and I also got the footage from the game. So now I have some collateral and some credibility. But I did not get hired. I did not get signed to a job right there on the spot, because what happens at these events is there were 200 players, all of us trying to play our way into a pro basketball opportunity, and the audience is not just random basketball fans. These are coaches, agents, scouts, managers from all over the world. They come to these events on purpose because they're looking for players for their teams, their professional basketball teams all around the world. So these events are big deals for people in the basketball world, though outside of the world, nobody knows about this stuff. So I had to be back at work Monday morning at Bowie Total Fitness. So we got right back in that rental car and drove Sunday afternoon right back to Philly, and I had to be back at work. So when I got back to work, what I started doing here, Gucci, is I went on Google, which did exist in 2005, and I started Googling basketball agents, because I knew that my future in basketball would probably be abroad, overseas, outside of the United States, but I had barely been out of the state, let alone out of the country. So I didn't know anybody over there. So I knew I needed to connect with someone who knew those people, who could be the middleman, and that would be an agent. So agents in sports are like literary agents or like entertainment agents. They're the connect between the talent and the job. So I started Googling basketball agents. And
how important, real quick though, and Dre, how important is finding the right agent? Because, it's kind of like anything, right? People will say, oh, I'm an agent. How important is it to find the right one? And were you able to find one that believed in you?
Yes, I was. So how important it is what a good thing for me is that I didn't have to commit anything to an agent. So if an agent said they're going to represent me, but they didn't get anything done, I didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that was a good thing for me. So I found an agent. He decided to represent me. I called like 60 of them. 20 of them said, let me see what you got. I sent my footage to those 20. And of those 20, one called me back and said, I'll represent you. He became my agent, got me my first job. That was in 2005, summer 2005 in Kaunas, Lithuania. That's where I started my career.
Nice.
Now, I got to give you a parallel here, because at that same time, that footage that I got from this exposure camp, mind you, it's 2005. This was not a DVD. This was not even a digital file. This was a VHS tape. You remember those?
Yes, I remember those, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So the VHS tape, I knew that if I lost it, left it in the sun, it got wet, that footage would be destroyed. That was the most important footage I owned. So I took it to an audio-visual store. They put it on a data CD, and I uploaded it to this brand new website that had just come out. And this website claimed that you could put as much footage up there for free as you want, unlimited. It was called youtube.com. And that's where I started this parallel career of putting basketball footage on the internet. And this is where I started to build a name for myself online, because I was just putting the footage up, not because I was trying to make myself known, because that wasn't a thing at the time. Yeah. Social media was not a thing. We weren't using that phrase. Content was not a thing at that time. There were no brand deals, and nobody was looking for me. Nobody was going on the internet typing in Dre Baldwin. I was nobody at this point. And what happened, though, was basketball players were going to this website looking for help on how to practice basketball. So the only difference between them and me, as I was about a generation older than them, was that back in the 90s, if you wanted to learn basketball, you either had to know somebody or you had to figure it out on your own. Whereas these kids, they could go to the internet and crowdsource knowledge from people who they didn't even know. This was a new thing. Sounds crazy, sounds normal now, but back then, that was 20 years ago, it was a new thing. So I started to build an audience. I realized that these kids are underserved. So I started putting my workouts that I was doing every day anyway with my cheap little $100 camera on YouTube. And this is how I started to build an audience. So 2005 till about 2010, that's what I was doing while I'm playing overseas. I played in a couple different countries. Found myself unemployed 2010, started creating products and creating my own training programs. So I started selling to basketball players. So about $4.99 a piece. Those were my first entrees into entrepreneurship. My first price point was $4.99.
And what did they get? What did they get for that?
I had two programs. One was the dribbling program, simple to advanced ball handling, was how to dribble the basketball. And the other one was shooting. So one for dribbling, one for shooting. And nice. $4.99, no marketing campaign, no ad budget. All I did was put videos on YouTube. And at the end of the video, say, if you want more of this, click this link and go buy the program. And we sold thousands of those programs off of that.
So thousands.
I did.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, what's before we get into your programs now, which we're heading towards, what was it like playing overseas basketball in Europe? What's the size of the crowds? Being an American, what was it like?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's the best job. Being a professional athlete is probably, I mean, I haven't worked in every sector, but it's probably the best job you could have as far as actually being employed and you work for someone. I don't think there's a better job than being a professional athlete because a long day at work is maybe 4 hours of work. That's the day when you had two practices, right? That's the long day. You got one practice, you're working for 2 hours that day. You got a game, 2 to 3 hours, and that's it. That's your whole day's work, and then you have a whole day to do whatever you want to do. So when you see
didn't you guys
athletes,
do you do like on the Blue Angels? You know, I talk a lot about pre-flight planning or pre-planning the briefs and the debriefs. I know you guys watch game film and stuff, but how much of your day did you actually spend as a team preparing for the game? And did you guys do the game films, the debriefs afterwards?
Only practice was the time that we spent preparing for the game. And the teams that I played on, did we do film? Not really. You could ask for film if you wanted it, but at the same time, I must offer this disclaimer. There are different levels of teams that play overseas basketball. So if you're at the highest level that's happening in Europe, which I didn't play at the highest level at Europe, then those teams might take time to actually watch film. But the teams that I played for, we never watched film. If you wanted it, you could ask for it, but it wasn't something that was part of the process.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then what happens? So you get cut basically in 10, right? 2010, or how's that work?
2010, I was unemployed, so I wasn't cut. My previous contract ended, but then there was no new contracts. I was just a free agent. I was an out of work basketball player. So that's when I started making programs on the internet, writing more blog posts, and I started to jump into this whole thing that we now call social media content, building a personal brand. Now this was becoming ubiquitous. And I already had all these videos on YouTube, so I already had a little name to myself. Now I had to start doing it on purpose and trying to turn some money out of it because I was unemployed. I didn't have a job. So I was thinking, hey, the phone may not ring again. My agent may not call again. I may not get another job playing basketball because remember, I came from a D3 pedigree, and that's the way they look at you. They look at where you came from. So I said, just in case this phone doesn't ring again, what can I do? And that's when I started building the brand that became Work on Your Game and Dre All Day and all these things that I'm sure we'll talk about. The phone did ring again, Gucci. Good news, the phone did ring again. I kept playing pro till 2015. But what happened in 2010 is I noticed that the players who were watching me, they kept asking me questions not about the tangible stuff, like how to dribble and how to shoot, but they were asking about the intangibles, the mental game. Yes. They were saying, Dre, why do you come to the gym every day and work out when you don't even know if you're ever going to play another minute of pro basketball? Because I didn't know. Or they said, how do you get the confidence to perform in the game the way that you do in practice? Or, man, you only played 1 year high school ball. You walked on to play Division III college ball, yet you kept believing that you could possibly make it as a pro. Why'd you even think that was possible? Because that's kind of a far-fetched idea, if we're being honest. because a lot of the players could relate to that. The players who are watching me on YouTube, a lot of them are getting cut from the high school teams, playing at a JUCO, playing at a community college, barely playing there. And they had family and friends around them saying, why don't you give up this basketball pipe dream and go do something serious? Like, they had people telling them that. And they saw me and they said, well, if this guy figured it out, maybe I could figure it out. So they kept asking about the intangibles, the mental stuff.
Yes.
Or they'd ask, hey, how do you get started getting known on the internet? Or how do you get started playing overseas? Because there's no guidebook on how to play basketball overseas. Well, there is now because I wrote it. But before that, there wasn't one. And I just started answering these questions. And I started making these videos every Monday, Gucci, called the Weekly Motivation.
Okay.
And this would just be a little 2 to 3 minute selfie video. And I'd be in the car, I might be walking, I might be at home. This is before selfie videos were a thing. And I did the Weekly Motivation every Monday. The other 6 days a week was just basketball drill videos on YouTube. And I did the Weekly Motivation every week for 400 weeks in a row. That became the foundation of what I do now, because those videos started to open me up to a whole audience of people who never picked up a ball. Because they said, man, I know you're making that for ball players, but Dre, the stuff you're talking about applies to everybody. So that told me, okay, when I get done with basketball, this is what I'm going to do. And that's exactly what happened. So fast forward to today, that's how we got here. Company's called Work on Your Game, and that's what I do. We take the mental tools from the sports world and we apply them to the business world. Wow,
man. First off, great story. I'm glad that you've actually made the leap. Let's dive into the mental aspect. So what are some of the mindsets or mental aspects that you learn on the court, and actually now it works in any aspects of life? Where would you start?
No, that's easy where we start. We start with discipline.
Okay.
Discipline is your ability and willingness to show up every day and do the work. And that is number one biggest thing for me, is the discipline. It's the consistency. It's the persistence. It's the showing up consistently and doing whatever the job happens to be. And what I found as a professional, and I'd be interested to know what you think, Gucci, is that discipline is really, especially when you get to the highest levels where everybody has a baseline level of ability, the discipline is what separates those who make it from those who don't. It's who has the discipline to keep showing up.
100%. I would say I would actually add the mindset, the discipline and the mindsets really make the difference at that level, right? Because everyone's skills are pretty damn good at that point. So I heard a definition of discipline once. It actually came from, I think I was at a spiritual event, and they said, discipline is delayed gratification. You ever hear that before? Yes. I love that. I love that, because what it does is it flips my mind from the idea of discipline being hard, I'm going to, I have to do something, to something that is more of a positive. It's like, wait, if I want to achieve my goal, discipline's part of it. So how do you teach discipline when you talk about it? How do you what have you found in your world?
Great question, because a lot of people ask about it. And most of the time when I hear from entrepreneurs, this probably the number one thing that comes up is that I need to be more disciplined and more consistent and more persistent, or I got to stick to my thing more. How do I do it? Well, first, let's start with how people get it wrong, because a lot of people try to get disciplined the wrong way, which is they try to force feed themselves discipline. They try to make themselves be disciplined. I just got to make myself get up early every day. When my alarm goes off at 6 o'clock, I'm tired. I got to make myself get out of bed. I got to make myself go to the gym. I got to make myself record this podcast, make myself write this book. And it doesn't work. It can work for a short period of time, like a candy bar, but eventually you crash. And what I tell people is structure creates discipline.
Oh, nice.
So when you put the right structure or process or system, we can use those interchangeably in this context. You put that in place, then discipline automatically comes out. Now, you come from the military. All right? We know the military is known for structure, right? So when you're in the military, the structure is so strong, it's built in. You have no choice but to be disciplined if you're going to stick around. And the challenge, at least from what I've heard, is that when people get out of the military, it's hard for them to maintain that level of performance because the structure is not there anymore. Now,
same in athletes, right? Same in athletes.
Yes.
Have you seen that? Go ahead. Yeah.
I have. Now, I haven't been in the military, but I would guess that the military is a little bit more structured than the athletic world.
Yeah.
I don't think we're as tight as you all were. But but yours produces better discipline than ours does, because I knew some very undisciplined athletes who were very talented, so they kept them around because of their talent. But
here's a quick story for you. You just made me think of it. A few years back, I was working at this event called the Global Sports Summit, and in order to get there, you had to own a major league franchise team. It could be NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. That didn't matter. And so I'm working with the owners, right? And they brought me in to speak, and we're off to the side, and Roger Goodell was there, and we were talking about what happens to athletes when they get, when they're over, when their career's over. And what can the teams do? What can the owners, what can the teams do to help that transition? Because it's a pretty abrupt transition for some people. You get hurt.
That's right.
One day you got the structure of the whole NFL behind you. You got the structure of the NBA, and the next day or very quickly, you're gone. Right. And how did you make the leap yourself? Because you're a success story, right? You've gone from the sports world to the business world. How did you make that leap? And what was the challenges?
That's a great question. And what I like to tell people, Gucci, is that my misfortune of coming from a quote unquote weak pedigree as an athlete, and the gaps in my resume where I was unemployed and wasn't sure the phone was going to ring again, that actually became a blessing in disguise, because in those years when I didn't have my phone wasn't ringing and no contract offer was on the table, I started building what became my post-athletic career.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people is, had I been, named an athlete who's consistently employed all the way through, and they never had those gaps and they never had to worry, am I going to get another chance? Had I been that athlete, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because I wouldn't have had all this infrastructure in place by the time I stopped playing. So the day that I stopped playing, I already knew exactly what I was going to do. I stopped playing because I chose to. It wasn't forced upon me. I chose to. So, some athletes say is a funny thing in the pro sports world. Some athletes say is that you're the last one to find out your career's over. Because nobody, right? Your phone's not ringing. You finally get the point. Okay, I got it. I'm done. But I chose for my career to be over. I could have kept playing if I wanted to, but I had more momentum on the business side than I had on the athletic side. So I chose to transition. So it was a little bit easier for me because it was harder for me as an athlete.
No, I'm with you 100%. Hey, by the way, in Philly, Sugar asked me to ask you this. Rita wants to know, is it Italian ice or custard, frozen custard? Which is your favorite?
I hate custard. Italian ice.
Right,
I actually have 4 quarts of Rita's water ice in my freezer right now.
You do?
Eat some today. Yes, I do.
4 quarts. Now, and you're in Miami. You and I were talking. You're in Miami.
They started opening them in Miami now, because there's a lot of people from Jersey and Philly live here.
Sure, absolutely.
Right. So in Miami Beach, the north part of Miami Beach, there's a large Jewish community in that area as well. And a lot of them come from that tri-state area. So they started opening Rita's now here. And they just opened one in South Beach, as a matter of fact. So
nice.
Yeah, that's where I get my water ice from.
Nice.
But down here, nobody knows what that is. So if you're from Miami, people are like, water ice? What is that? I have no idea. They think it's gelato. They get it mixed up with gelato.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, so let's dive into what you're doing now, because I think it's so helpful for our audience, how they, as leaders, entrepreneurs, can really take their game to the next level, right? So tell me more about what you do for people right now.
Sure. So what we do here at Work on Your Game, and our program is called Work on Your Game University, is really just focused on 4 areas: mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. So those are the 4 things that people are usually asking me about. Sometimes they ask directly, like when it comes to mindset or accountability. Usually people know that they need those 2 things.
Those 2, yeah.
Right. And then the things they don't know they need, they say it indirectly, is the strategy, which is simply a plan of action. What am I going to do to get from point A to point Z? And then the system. How do I make sure I can get from point A to point Z over and over and over again, like clockwork, to where I can do the same things the same way every time? So we give them those 2 things that they need, and they come thinking that they need the mindset and the accountability, but they also need the strategy and the system. So that's what we help people.
Oh, man. I love it. And when you talk system, that's where the discipline kicks in. Because you said if we have the structure and we have the strategy, that discipline's going to kick in. Yeah, I think it's just the idea of process and mindset, methods and mindset. You need both, right? Because you and I both know if you only have one, it can get you by for so long, but it's not going to scale. So keep going. When people come to you, how do you get them to go to that level?
How do we get them to actually apply these things?
Yeah, and actually apply it, because you got 4 things now. And by the way, do they go in that order? Have you found?
Yes, in that order.
So let's go through them in order then. So mindset comes in first, right?
Oh, absolutely. Mindset is like the foundation. So down here in South Florida, I always use this analogy. There's a lot of construction going on here, all high rises under construction all the time. And I tell people that when you see these high rises going up, the taller the building, the deeper the foundation.
Nice.
And mindset is the foundation upon all success. All success is built on the foundation of the way that you think, because it's the be, do, have principle. All right. You had to be it first, then you do it, then you have it. So if your mindset is not in the right place, you could do all the quote unquote right things and still fail. And this is where a lot of people get frustrated, because they don't get the right mentality. They don't step into the right energy, the right aura, the right posture. And then they go follow what they see somebody else doing, don't get the same outcome. And they're like, well, what's the problem? What's wrong with me? I followed all the steps. The issue is you didn't do the first step first, which is, who do I need to be as a person? And a lot of people go straight
is that the question? I like that. Is that
yes.
the question you get people to answer? Who do
yes,
I want to be?
Yes, that's the question most people never ask themselves. And it's the reason why people can work hard their entire lives and never get the outcome that they want. Because most people understand the concept of goal setting. Whether they do it or not is a different question, but most people get it. All right, this is what I want. I want to make this much money. I want to have a big car, a house, et cetera, right? These are the things I want to have.
Yeah.
And most people who have control of their mental faculties understand that you can't get something for nothing. You have to do something. So this is what most people do. They go through this whole cycle their entire lives. Let me go do stuff. Did I get the outcome? No. Let me do some more stuff. Did I get the outcome? No. Let me do some more stuff. So they spend their whole lives in this cycle of hard work. Did I get the goal? No. And they just work hard, and still don't get their outcomes. And this is why I tell people, by deductive reasoning, hard work is not the key to success.
Right.
Hard work is an element of success, the same way that salt, pepper, and oregano are an element of a good sandwich. But if all you had was salt, pepper, and oregano, that's not a meal, right?
Hey, but you're vegan, right? I mean, I understand.
I'm plant-based. I was like,
plant-based now.
Plant-based.
Okay.
I eat meat sometimes, but mostly plant-based. So what a lot of people do is they go through life just doing that hard work. And they think that if they're not getting their outcome, then that means they're just not working hard enough. That's not the case. The case is you just may have a faulty plan. Your game plan may be off. Maybe you don't have the right system. Maybe your whole thought process to what you're doing is flawed. So you're basically working off of an inaccurate formula, is what I tell people. If your formula is off, then it doesn't matter how hard you work. So the first point is we got to get our minds right and make sure that we understand the game that we're in. This is what work on your game is about. We got to know what game you're in. All right, do you even know what game you're playing here? So that's the first part, is the mindset.
Okay,
got it. The foundation of everything.
So help me, work with me. So what if I say, Dre, brother, I don't really know. I'm still searching for that purpose, who I want to be. You got any tools that I could try to help figure that out?
Absolutely. When I
knew you would.
People, sure. When I talk to people and I ask them, what do you want? What are your goals? What outcomes do you want to achieve? And they have trouble answering that question, then all we do is flip it around. What do you hate? What do you despise? What's the situation you've been in your life that was absolutely terrible and it would be completely unacceptable for you to ever be there again? Or what have you seen in other people that you just detest? Like a sickness. What's that? If you can't tell me what you want, you can tell me what you hate. All right. Everyone can answer one question or the other. If you can't answer one, you can answer the other. So that's where we start with people. We need to get that on the table so we can move forward.
No, I like that. Hey, do you work with youth also? Or is it mostly just executives and stuff?
When you say youth, you mean like
young.
High school?
Well, yeah. Young kids, call it high school, that may not know that answer yet, right?
Right. I have some of them in my audience, but as clients, no.
Okay. So because I think
on the internet,
it's pretty powerful, right? If we can figure this out, the younger you can figure it out, the better. Okay. So on mindset number one, who do I want to be? Right.
That's
right. Have you ever, I've used this question before working with people, and that is, and you may already have tried this, is the who am I question. I have them answer it right away. Like, who am I? So if I were to ask you that question, let's do it, where you get 30 seconds. And then here's the key. I'm going to give you appreciative feedback from what I hear. Right. So my job is to listen. Okay. You want to try that? So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first. So
go. I love you jumped in. So answer the question. Who am I? And I'll listen for you. Go, man.
Who am I? I am a performer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a visionary. I'm a creator. I'm a person who gives people the game. We call it game spitting. So I'm spitting the game to people, and the game encompasses a whole lot of different things. Should I keep going?
It's up to you. As long as
I'm trying to think what else I can add to this.
Well, add to this. Add to and why are you here? How would you answer that question? Why are you?
It's a great one. I tell people this all the time. What's your reason for existing in the marketplace? Is that I'm giving you the real, raw, honest, no BS, no fluff truth about how things work. And my goal is not to make you feel good, but to help you do good. That's what work on your game is all about. And that's what I encompass. That's the reason I exist in the marketplace.
Yo, I love that. Okay, so now I get the chance to give you some debrief, appreciate feedback.
Okay. Perfect.
And then we'll switch, and you get to give me some feedback, right? First off, man, I got to tell you, Dre, your eyes lit up when you answered that. Why am I here, man? You could see from your heart you were just you know. And I also liked it. It meant something to you, and I could feel that. I'm sure people who are listening can feel that too. Also, if you notice, I think it's important, the word we chose after the I am, right? And you're a creative entrepreneur. In fact, I apologize, I forgot the first word you used. Do you remember the first word you used? Performer. That's right. Yeah. Why'd you choose that word? Chose, I guess, is a better word. Why'd you pick performer?
Good question, because I tell people all the time that you're in a performance and a results-based business. So what you are judged on is how you perform and what results that performance delivers. So it's something that I preach to my audiences all the time. So it's top of mind for me all the time.
Well, I love it. And I could tell because it was crystal clear. You went to one word, right? You know, some people will say, oh, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, whatever, right? It's interesting that you chose that word performer. So I just love it. I felt the energy, and I appreciate you, man. And I know you're making a difference because you can feel it's in your heart, not just your head, right? So,
thank you.
All right, so we'll flip it. So now I'll answer the question. You get some appreciative feedback. So you're just listening, right? Here we go. So first off, I like to say I'm an angel. And the reason I picked an angel, Dre, was because I was doing some study on wisdom, and it says an angel has 5 qualities. You know, an angel's a messenger, an angel gives guidance, an angel protects, an angel's a warrior, and above all else, an angel serves others. And Dre, when I heard that, man, I was like, I don't know if that's what angels do, but if they do, I'm in. Man, I'm all in. So I found the word that really resonates with me, like you did with performer, right? And you know, why am I here? To inspire 1 billion people. And I think that's why this is so important for you and I to go out there, and it's not going to happen by myself, right? The only way we're going to do that is we got to help others, inspire others to live life in all its fullness. So that's kind of my mantra. I got it in my back pocket. I mean, and it took a long time to get to that clarity. And I'm wondering about, you know, your folks and stuff, is when you can get that crystal clarity. I think it helps, but glad to be here. Over to you. Debrief.
I love that. And I like the fact that you narrowed it down to like a bite-sized answer, that you know exactly what it is, and it's not like you're going and going and going, because if you would have let me keep going, I probably would have just kept coming up with more stuff. But I like that you've narrowed it down to something that you can remember, and it's memorable, and it's something that somebody else could hear and they could take it with them and they can remember those points. So I really like that a lot, and that you're an angel, and it connects really well with your brand. It connects with everything that you've done, with your background, and you know, everything that you have going on, your marketing and everything. So I really love that answer.
Thanks, man. You know, speaking of, but I like seeing now, I feel more connected with you, right? I mean, I got to know you more as a human. Speaking of brand, because you mentioned it earlier, personal brands are so important, and you're an expert on that, right? So how do people build their personal brand? What advice would you give me, let's say, or anyone else that wants to build their brand?
Well, we go right back to that previous question. What do you want people to think when your name comes up? When your name gets mentioned, what
right here, man? I want them to think glad to be here. If you're not, if you guys are listening and not watching, you know, I'm wearing my glad to be here t-shirt. So if that's what I want people to think John Foley, glad to be here. What do we do?
Then everything that you put out, whether that's an email, whether it's you appearing on somebody else's podcast, whether it's your podcast, a YouTube video, your social media posts, a picture on Instagram, whatever, a text message that you send out, you want it to encompass that idea. So your thing is glad to be here. My thing is working on your game. Like anything that you put out needs to connect to that. And you want to always be reinforcing that message and reinforcing that image and everything that you put out to your audience. So then what we would do from there is really look at the stuff you've been putting out. And I would ask you, and I will let you answer. All right. Do the last 3 emails you send out, do they reflect what you want your personal brand to be? Let's look at the last couple episodes of your show. Let's look at your last appearances on stage. Let's look at your last keynote video. Is it a reflection of what you want people to walk away with? Because you got to remember that even though we put out a lot of stuff,
right,
our audiences are going to remember maybe 3 weeks later, they'll remember maybe 2% of what you said.
Yeah.
Right. So are they going to remember that out of everything that they got from you, if anything? And it should be whatever you want that brand to be.
Yeah, I'm with you. For us, it is glad to be here. And I think, the keynotes, it's, I leave people inspired, but inspired what? To do 2 things. One is live a life of joy and gratitude, which is encompassing glad to be here, but that's not enough. That's the mindset. It's back to what you preach. And that is you need to have a process and a system to do that, right? It's got to be structure around that. And to me, that's the debrief. That's what I like. I want them to come away with 2 thoughts. How do I do my glad to be here debrief? So how do I learn, grow, give? See, this idea of constant continuous improvement, right? Work on your game, man. Every day, work on your game. And how do I celebrate and enjoy my life as I'm doing that? So those are my 2 things. What are yours? What do you want people to walk away with when they hear work on your game?
Sure. And I tell people at the end of, if I give a keynote, I ask them, why'd you come to this event? Whatever the event is, why are you here? And I say, yeah, you came here for, to meet other people, to have fun, the trip. If it's a destination event, you maybe came for the free food. But the reason you came here is because you understand that you're in a performance-based business. You're here so you can get more game so that you can play your game, whether you're in sales, whether you're in corporate, whatever it is you're doing, you're a marketer. You came here so you can learn, you get some tools so you can play your game better, because you understand that this business is based on performance. You have to go out there and perform. When you perform, you produce results. So you produce results, you get rewards. So performance, results, rewards. And then we want to systematize that so you can do it over and over and over and over again. So that's what I want people to get anytime they hear me.
Love it. So how have you systematized it for yourself and share it with my audience so they know how to work with you, man?
Yeah, so how have I systematized which part of it?
Your
the
game.
Whole thing?
Yeah, the work with your game.
So the way that I've systematized it is I do this, everything that I tell people in my audience to do, everything we talked about here, I do it myself. So we start with the foundation of mindset. Mindset is the foundation piece for me. Then the strategy is, what is the plan of action? What actually needs to happen here? Once we figure out what needs to happen and know that it works, we want to systematize it. How can we do this over and over? How can we deconstruct it so we can do it over and over again? And then what's the accountability process? Because accountability is not limited to just people. Yeah. Because people think when they hear accountability, people come to me and say, well, Dre, I want to coach because I need somebody to hold me accountable. And they may be right. Maybe they do need to be held accountable, but also the process has to be held accountable, because if you follow the process and don't get the desired outcome, that means we got to hold the process accountable and see what part of the process needs to be edited or adjusted, because the process is not always perfect. Right? The process is not infallible. And sometimes the process works for 6 months, but now the ground has shifted underneath us. We got to change the process to make sure the process continues to produce results, because we're in a results-based business. So these are the same pieces that I apply. And when it comes to utilizing other people here, Gucci, is that sometimes you can have the right mindset, but if you don't have the right strategy. So sometimes I go to someone else to get the strategy. All right. This is the reason why I buy tickets to go to events. This is the reason why I join masterminds, the reason why I hire coaches, the reason why I read books and I listen to podcasts. Why? Because other people have strategies and plans of actions that are better than mine. So every one of us, especially as entrepreneurs, we have to know when to fire ourselves from jobs. And I was telling my audience this the other day, right? If you had an employee who was working for you and you were giving them the job, you told them what you wanted done, and they consistently are failing to get the job done, how long would you let them keep working before you fired them?
Well, hopefully sooner than later, but I think that's a mistake. Most people don't, right? We hang on, especially if they are contributing in some way, right?
Right.
But keep going. I'm with you. You want
Right.
to move on quickly, don't you?
Right. So let me ask you this question. So
Yeah.
hypothetically, so if they're the main job that you want them to get done, they are failing to get it done, how long would you let them keep failing before you move them off of that job, at least maybe put them somewhere else, or you got rid of them completely?
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking realistically, it's a month, because you got to give people time
Right.
to make sure that they understand. And then, what I'm looking for, and by the way, my partner here is producing Sugar, is I want people who all in and can raise their hand and say, I'll do that, right? I'll try,
Right.
I'll do that. And if you need support, we'll get you support. But it's more of the being all in and not just waiting for somebody else to do it. But so that as I'll say a month. How about you?
Okay. Right. Yeah, I'm about a month too. I'll fire people in 3 weeks because they're just not getting the job done that I need them to get done when I've clearly told them what the job is and they've communicated back to me that they understand it. No more than 3 weeks, and you said a month, which is 4 weeks. Well, here's the challenge that I notice with a lot of people. And again, I talk to entrepreneurs every day. Many of them have been trying to figure it out on my own. I'm using air quotes there for years and not achieving the outcome. And I say to them, I reason with them, okay, so you would probably fire an employee after 3 weeks, but you haven't fired yourself after 5 years. All right. So there's a disconnect there. All right. So you got to know when to fire yourself from the job and go put somebody else on the job who knows it better than you do. And we have to have the humility to fire ourselves from the jobs, which earns us the right to be confident in the jobs that we are doing, because nobody's good at everything. So we got to know what jobs we should be doing and which jobs we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I love the fire yourself too, because it gets your attention, right? And we should be doing that. I think back to the blues, man. I want to surround myself with people who are better than I am, right? I mean, as a team, or at least as committed and good as best we can be, so we can be great as a team. Okay, hey, let's finish up your 4, because I get it now. You start them on mindset, right? You got to create a strategy, right?
Right.
And then you're scaling this thing, or you're systematizing it, right?
Systematizing it, right. So that's where you have the opportunity to scale it, because when you have a system, then you can start multiplying your results without multiplying your efforts in a linear way. So you can get 10 times the results without 10 times the effort. So that's where the system comes in. So the system is all about figuring out how can we do the same things the same way every time. So if you look at any professional who's good at what they do, like even you with the Angels, there was a system. Now, there was a system every time you had to get in that plane. There was a system of what you need to do before you could take off, right? Before you even hit the runway, there's a system of what you need to do. I would guess there's a system of what you need to do the day before you knew you were getting in the plane to be ready, right? It's the same thing with athletes. There's certain things I knew I need to do. If I know I got a game tomorrow, there's certain things I'm doing today, right? To make sure that I'm ready for the game. So that's what all of us need to do. And anywhere that we want to get a consistent result, then we need to have a consistent process. There should be no thinking about it. There's no variability, and there are no exceptions when you have a real system, because systems usually follow standards, and standards are a reflection of principles. And what I tell people is that you have principles, you have strategies, you have tactics. Tactics are very interchangeable. You can change tactics from day to day as necessary. Strategies can change, but they don't change that often. They are a little bit flexible, but not that much. But principles never change. So this is where your system needs to be a reflection of your principles, your strategies, and your tactics. Again, the tactics can change when necessary. So what that system is about is really just deconstructing what needs to happen in order for us to produce this outcome. And the thing is, for a lot of people, and this is how systems and accountability actually work together here, Gucci, is because a lot of people kind of know subconsciously what they need to do in order to get a certain outcome. Let's say somebody's trying to lose weight. Okay, I'm trying to lose weight, but I keep eating ice cream and cake. I keep eating candy. I keep, getting a second helping when I go to the buffet. They know what they need to do. They just need someone to help hold them accountable, give them that kick in the butt to actually do the thing that they know they need to do. A lot of people just don't have that self-accountability. It's what I call an accountability gap. People have these gaps in accountability, and they're looking for someone who can help close that accountability gap. But every human needs that on some level at different times. So that's why we're interconnected. That's the reason why we have social media. It allows us to connect with each other. So you don't have to be an island and trying to do everything by yourself. So that's what the system is about.
Love it. So let's move to accountability and the gap. I like that you said it's just not personal. I like to talk about personal responsibility, but what I like you added is that the system's accountable too. There's
That's
accountability
right.
to the system, the process.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more of how do you teach, or what are the challenges with accountability that you've seen?
Man, well, the biggest challenge with accountability is that a lot of people are just very resistant to it because it pushes you out of your comfort zone. The accountability pushes people out of what they're used to doing. And most people have a default setting. Actually, every human being has a default setting, which is our comfort zone. And what I tell people is that most people's default setting is slow and later. All right, they do things
Ah,
slowly and they say they're going to do them later. And if you could just change that, right, it changes everything. Instead of doing it slow, do it fast, and instead of doing it later, do it now. All right, if you could just change that,
cool.
that would change people's lives in about 30 days if they just started applying just that alone and didn't do anything else. Just that, even if you don't know what you're doing, it would start changing a whole lot in people's lives. So that accountability, the biggest challenge for a lot of people is, again, subconsciously, most people are relatively smart. All right, they know when they're screwing up, they know when they're making mistakes, but they just don't want to deal with it because they know it's going to require them to do something that pushes them out of their normal mode of operation.
Give me an
And
example. Give me an example of either a client you worked with, or more importantly yourself, and uh, how you got over that. Because I love the idea of fast and now, but give me an example.
yeah, that's a good question. So let me see. So I had a client who was, his challenge was he was making plenty of money in his business, but he felt like he was letting his physical fitness slip. And we got to talking about it. He said, well, my challenge, this guy's no dummy. He's a really smart guy. His challenge was he would get seconds, he would go eat and he would get a second plate of food, or his family, his wife and his kids kept candy in the house and he couldn't keep himself from going into the candy. And he would eat ice cream and all of these things that, again, he didn't need me to tell him that he didn't need to do those things, but he understood that he needed someone to help hold him accountable so that he knew every week he was going to get on a call with me, or every day he was going to have to text me and tell me what he ate. That was enough to help hold him accountable because he didn't want to feel the embarrassment of having to tell me that he did something that he wasn't supposed to do. So that accountability was something that worked for him. Let me see if I can give you an example. I'll give you an example that comes from me. So when it comes to just bringing clients into my business, I realized that if I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants and just put material out there and appear on shows and put emails out and social media and maybe run some ads, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but there was no system to it. I needed a system, something that I knew if I do this is going to come out the other side. I needed that so I could do it over and over and over and over again. So I went and found someone who had a system. They had a system for, hey, here's how, if you want to get coaching clients and you want to sell high ticket coaching, we have a system for how to do it. It's this simple. This is how it works. Get on a call with us. And I joined their program. And I invested a lot of money into that program because they had a system and how to do it. And everything else that they taught, a lot of what they taught, I didn't really need. I mean, I use it, but I didn't really need it, but I needed to plug into a system. And that's one of the things that I use myself, that anytime I'm not getting the outcome that I want, I'll go look for someone who can show me how to do it and help me get to it even faster.
Nice.
I'll give you another one. I go to a boxing gym. I'm not a boxer. I'm not trying to be one, but I have a boxing trainer. I pay this guy. And today, as a matter of fact, I was in the gym sparring with this guy who's an amateur fighter. Could barely hit the guy, right? But the thing is, the reason why I went and got a trainer for this is because I could go to the gym and hit the punching bag and throw punches around and jump rope and do all that by myself. But if I actually wanted to learn the game, then I got to learn from someone who actually knows the game. I don't know the game, and I don't have enough time to self-teach myself the game. It'd be better if I take a shortcut by getting around someone who already understands the game and let them teach me. And I know there are going to be some times that I get pushed out of my comfort zone. I'm going to have to do some drills that I never would have even thought of doing, let alone what I want to have done. But I get around someone who knows the game better than me so that I can advance, and I can, anytime that you invest in yourself, especially using your money, what you're doing is you're not buying information. You're not buying insight. A lot of people think that they say, well, I'm going to get into this program so I can get the information of whatever Gucci's going to teach or whatever Dre's going to teach. You're not buying information. All right, what you're buying is time. Because if you get into Gucci's program, what you're going to get is achieving your results faster than if you would have did it by yourself. So if you achieve results 1 year faster than you would have done it by yourself, you paid X number of dollars, 20 grand, for a year of time. Now, if you were about to die and the doctor said, give me $20,000, you can live another year, would you pay? All right. Most people would, right? So what you're doing is you're buying time. You're not buying information. You're buying time. And that's a thing that a lot of people need to wrap their minds around, because, a lot of people don't like to think about death and dying because it makes them feel, made negative or something like that. But everybody's going to die at some point. So you want to achieve as much as you can while you're still here. And that's why you want to use your money to buy time. Time is the most valuable resource that we have. It's much more valuable than money. But a lot of people, and again, I work with entrepreneurs, a lot of people seem to value their money more than they value anything else. They're putting an improper value on these things.
Huge point. Huge point. How about, I want to start to wrap up with gratitude. Before we go there, I got to ask you a question on YouTube, because you're thinking about, like, I don't understand YouTube well. You've got so many subscribers and downloads. Is YouTube the channel that you use the most in social media? And what is that strategy for YouTube for someone like us?
The one that I use the most, I would say, just by usage, is probably Instagram, just because I use the Instagram stories function like throughout the day. But I post on every platform every day, so they're all actually kind of equal. But I will actively be using, I will say, Twitter and Instagram the most through the day.
Why?
YouTube, why? Because on Instagram, I got the stories. So I'm basically telling people the story of my day. If you watch my Instagram story, you pretty much know what I did that day. And on Twitter, is kind of like, Twitter's like my news source. I don't watch the news and I don't own the television. So Twitter is where I get the news of what's going on in the world. And I offer my social commentary there. So those are the reasons I use those two. As far as YouTube's like TV. YouTube is basically the new TV. So my niece and nephew who are in their teens, I don't know if they have a TV, but they're on those iPads all day, right? And I have an 11-month-old son. I'm sure he's going to grow into being just like that. So this is where everybody gets all their entertainment, is YouTube. That's like the new TV. So I want to be there, and I want to get as many eyeballs as possible on YouTube. As a matter of fact, just today, Gucci, I just signed up for this service that does graphic design for you, so they can make the the thumbnails on YouTube, like the image you see before you click on the video. And I know I need better thumbnails to hopefully increase the number of people who click on my video, because I know if they click on it and they listen to me, they'll keep watching. But if the thumbnails suck, then I might not get the clicks. So I need to improve my click-through rate. So I just signed up for this service so they can help me, because I'm not a graphic designer, and I know I should not spend a second in Canva designing graphics. So I'm not doing that. And so that's one of the things that I did. But YouTube is, I would say, of all the social media platforms, no, I can't even put it that way, but I would say YouTube it produces a very high ROI because it has a very long tail. And if your material was evergreen, then that material will still be valuable 6 months from now or 2 years from now, as opposed to an Instagram post or a tweet, which as soon as they go down the feed, they're done, right? They don't exist anymore, or TikTok. So YouTube, I would say, is a place that any entrepreneur who wants to get seen, heard, and known should be investing in getting better. And I need to get better at YouTube. I'm far from an expert. I am experienced, but there are people who know it way better than me. So I'm looking for those people so I can pay them and buy some time.
Buy some time. That from me. I got that. Hey, give me one or two, let's see, lessons that you've learned in your life that you'd want to share with somebody. So, you're passing on. And by the way, we never know if we'll be alive tomorrow, right? So if you were to die today, and I'm glad you brought it up, what would be the last, lesson that you'd want someone to hear? Maybe it came right now. What would that be?
Man, that's a really great question. I would say set standards for yourself. This is something I've been talking about a lot this week, so this is just what's fresh on my mind. But what I would tell somebody is listen to every episode I ever put out, and that'll tell you everything you need to know from my brain, because that's the reason why I record so much. But setting standards for yourself, which are non-negotiables, things that are a reflection of what you want your life to look like in every area, and that you will absolutely not compromise on. And anytime you want to raise your level of performance in life, all you had to do is set a new standard in that area. And as long as it's a true standard, then your performance has no choice but to improve. So that's the number one thing that I would tell anybody, is set standards for yourself. And the challenge for many people, again, is that accountability. They don't want to set a standard for themselves, because then it gives them a responsibility. Standards come with responsibility, and responsibility is a package deal that comes with power. most people want power, but they don't want the responsibility and standards that come with it. So that's what I would tell people.
Nice. I like that. So they want power, but they're not willing the standards and the responsibility to come with it, right?
Right.
They want a result. Nice, nice. Hey, let's wrap up with some gratitude. I always like to end. First off, I'll start and then you can finish.
Okay.
But actually, there's going to be two questions. When you got the package, and by the way, we sent you. I think you told me we sent you. Glad to be here.
Yes, I got your book right here.
Yeah, I love it, man. What was your initial reaction? There you go, man. Fearless Success. Yes. I like your books in the background. That's way more important. The glad to be here. What resonated with you when you saw that, if anything?
Glad to be here. It's the message reflects someone who's happy to be alive, happy to be present, and happy to be around, and a person who, someone says that glad to be here, it tells me that they're resonating joy and appreciation just for the fact that they are, just by being, regardless of what's happening. But glad to be here, because you could easily not be here, and that's a lot worse.
Man, I'm with you. I want to let you end this podcast. First off, before we end it, where can people go? What's the best way to connect with you?
Best way to connect with me immediately would be through any of the socials. I'm most active on Instagram, just my name, at Dre Baldwin. Work on Your Game University is our main focus business-wise. Is where we do all our coaching, all our courses. I do send out a daily motivation text message for free. Can I share that number?
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Okay, so if you just send a text to my number, which is 305-384-6894, every day I send a message guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. And I do respond to those text messages too. So when you text there, there's an auto bot that will verify you. But once you're in and you respond, that is me writing back to you. So that's my daily motivation text.
Nice. Say it again. You said it so fast. What's the number?
305-384-6894. Daily motivation text.
We're going to put it in the chat and in the show notes too. But love that. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, man. Dre, I was so impressed when you were sending me your information to be on here, and you're so thoughtful and you live your message. There's no doubt, that you live your message. But I love, I can't close. You know why? Sugar said, I got to ask you about your latest, I think it's a LinkedIn post. Fuck your pronouns. The devil never forces us to do bad. The devil never forces us to do bad. Man, I love that. What's that about?
Well, I mean, the title says it all. So that was what was on my mind, and I wrote it during I guess what they now call Pride Month. It was June.
Yeah,
and I think what's happening it's slowly intruding on all of us that we are being. Is one thing to tolerate and accept. There's another thing when you're being forced to participate and celebrate. And I don't think that's right. And I think it's being forced on people that you have to put the pronouns in the bio and things like that. I completely don't agree with that. And I know for a fact, because I have corporate clients, people who work in corporate, people who work in academia, people who work in these places where they can't say anything, where they appreciate someone like myself who does say it, because there's nothing those people can do to me. So that's what was on my mind when I wrote that article.
I love you're honest, man. You speak your mind. You're living your dream. Okay, so I just want to say thank you. I so appreciate you, and thank you for making a difference in people's lives and speaking your mind. I'm glad to be here because I had this moment with you. I've learned a lot. Over to you. Why are you glad to be here?
I'm glad to be here because we had the opportunity to spread our messages and spread how we feel and spread what's going on with us to the rest of the world. And one of the great things about the internet's not all perfect. One of the great things about it is that we can connect with people who we otherwise never would have met, right? Otherwise, who knows if you and I ever would have met had it not been for the internet and Zoom and YouTube and all this stuff that we have here. So I'm thankful for the fact that I can be outside, as I like to tell people, and engage with other people who I otherwise may not have come across. So I really appreciate this opportunity to share your platform today.
Thanks, brother. Dre all day. Gucci says, glad to be here.
Appreciate it.